Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Whiskey Geeks. My name is Tim.
And I'm Alex, and we are two brothers on a quest to bring you the perfect pairing of whiskey and comics.
Yes, we are, and we're drinking a Big Daddy.
Yes.
Big boy.
Big boy tonight. A big boy bottle tonight.
Big boy. We're drinking Octomore, folks, which is super great. We came up with this pairing very early when we decided to do this little project. This was kind of a no-brainer of I mean, it's in the title. We don't need to bury the lead, really. It's Octomore and Darth Vader. I mean, it kind of makes perfect sense.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons, right? The Octomore bottle, like for those of you that haven't seen it, it's like a jet black bottle. You can't see through it. And so stylistically and just the visuals of the two kind of go together really well. And then as we'll get into, like, the Octomore does not mess around when it comes to smacking you in the face.
Yeah, it's a monster. So we've got very kind of different introductions to Octomore. I'll go first because mine's not as cool. Yours is a lot cooler.
Well,
I think.
I mean, people can judge. I don't know.
Yeah. So the first time I tried an Octomore was within the last 6-8 months. Probably longer than that. Time is a flat circle. And
I have no idea.
Who knows? It could have been 3 years ago. It could have been yesterday. But no, it was in the fall. And it was with our club. So we started this just club with friends to just kind of do virtual whiskey tastings. And we did an Isla night, and it was kind of we should maybe see if we can get an Octomore. And there was one left in the province, and it was 2 hours from me. It was down in Windsor, Ontario. But fortunately, I've got a friend. Shout out to Cobbler J. You know what? I'm going to put his link there. Cobbler J is a street performer who runs Busker Fests, and you should all go check him out. So ta-da, go check out Cobbler J. I called him and was like, hey man, this is really weird, but can I e-transfer you $220 to go buy a bottle of whiskey, and then I'll come down and pick it up from you or something? And fortunately, he was like, oh yeah, no problem. So he went and did it. And it was this bottle right here that's behind me. And then he was like, I've actually got a gig in Kingston or something like that. I'm going to be driving through London next week, so I can just drop it off. So it was perfect timing.
Awesome.
But I'd heard about Octomore, obviously, from the years of drinking whiskey. And it was just really hard to get in Ontario. And when you could get it, it was $200. And was a little bit out of my price range for what I was drinking. So it was kind of I'll get to it eventually. And so that was my first kind of foray into Octomore. And I mean, since then tonight will be the fourth different Octomore that I've tried in 6 months, because we did the 10.1. And then recently, I mean, you can see it actually, we had a neck pour session video of you doing the 11.1 and the 11.3, because our father, Whiskey Dad, as we like to call him,
Whiskey Dad,
picked up a bottle of 11.3. So, hey, you know what? You can go check out that video. I'll link to that at the end of this one. You can go and watch you drink those. And then, but tonight for me, and then I'll let you talk. Sorry, I'm being that guy tonight. You sent me this sample a long time ago. And so it's just been sitting. So I've got the 6.1.
Yeah. So that was the bottle that was my second bottle of Octomore. I originally had the 4.1 and then got the 6.1 to replace that one, and then sent you that sample when we decided that we were going to do this pairing.
We started planning everything, and was well, I've got these whiskeys, I'll send them to you. And so we've just got these random samples in the house. Yeah.
Just flying around through Canada Post.
You can see them over my shoulder. Those are some Game of Thrones samples.
Yeah. So, and then I, of course, could not keep my 6.1 alive. And when I was able to get my new bottle of the 11.1, I did a bottle kill of the 6.1. So tonight I'm drinking the 11.1.
Nice.
The associated article that goes with this does talk about the 6.1, which you have. So we can do a little, compare. Yeah. If we both hold them up real quick just to the camera, you can see the color difference
mine's
in
pretty
the two.
Dark.
Yeah, mine's verging on a rosé color.
Yeah,
it's really light.
White wine, and mine's got that nice kind of ambery hue to it. So
So
yeah,
yeah, I
excited.
first discovered Octomore when I was actually on a trip over in the UK, and I was in this like small little town out in the Cotswolds of
Yeah.
Chetlam, and there was just this like little pub, this little whiskey pub that I would just found myself in one afternoon, and the guy, you know, I asked, hey, like, what do you have that I can't get back in Canada? And I mean, he just to me is like, well, you say you like Isla's, but how much do you really like Pete? I was like, oh, I mean, I want to get smacked in the face with smoke. Like, just I'm all for it. And he goes, all right, I got the thing for you. And so yeah, he brought over this jet black bottle, put it down on the bar, pulled the cork, and he's like, stick your nose in that and let me know what you think. And I fell in love immediately.
Well, I was gonna
So
say, like, I just took a
oh
smell
yeah.
of this 6.1, and it is not for the faint of heart. If you're not an Isla guy or girl, sorry, if you're not an Isla person and Pete's not your thing, you probably want to steer clear.
Yeah, no, this is not a introductory to Isla course that we're doing here tonight. This is a full on you must love peat smoke to enjoy this, because
Yes,
otherwise,
this is for
see, like,
the.
so my wife will do like Bowmore, like she'll
Mm-hmm.
do Bowmore 12, and that's about as far on the spectrum that she'll go.
Right.
I guarantee after I'm done recording and I go upstairs, she's going to be like, go brush your teeth.
Oh,
I want nothing to do with you with that breath.
yeah, yeah. There's times when I'll pour myself a whiskey, and I'm an Isla fan, so I do
Yeah.
like peaty stuff. And there will be times that I'll have like a Lafroig or a Lagavulin or something like that. And then the next morning, I like come downstairs and my wife is like, "What the hell were you drinking last night?" Because the kitchen smells of it. Because I'll just leave the glass in the sink or something like
Yeah.
that. Or she'll like open the dishwasher and she's like, "It smells like the dishwasher's on fire." Because what the hell were you drinking? Um, so yeah, my wife's had Octomore before. She had the 10.1. She tried that, and
Yeah.
she was just kind of like, it's really weird because of the Octomore is like, so the Octomore, for those who don't know,
Yep. Should have done this
the,
earlier.
it's fine. It's like the most heavily peated whiskey on the market. That's like their thing. It's just
Yeah.
like ultra peated barley, and it's the crazy thing about Octomore to me, and we'll get into that as we start nosing and stuff like that. It's only a 5 year too, which is even crazy. It's a 5-year-old whiskey
Yeah.
typically, so it's like super young. So you are going to get that like crazy alcohol like flavor as well from that you get from young whiskeys. But even though it's like ultra peated, I find other whiskeys taste more like peat than Octomore does, which is like
Yeah.
weird. It's kind of like they pass the threshold, and then it becomes more complex again. It's a weird thing that happens with
Yeah.
Octomore, from my experiences with Octomore at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like, again, for being a 5-year-old whiskey, it's incredibly complex. There
It's
are
nuts.
multiple layers to it. You would think with something that is known for being like just it's branded as the most heavily peated thing. And like, we'll get into talking about the phenols part per millions, which is how they measure this, right?
Nerd
So
talk.
yeah, deep nerd
We're
cut
bringing
here.
we're really bringing the geeks to Whiskey Geeks tonight when we
Yeah.
talk about phenols.
Yeah. So the you know what? I don't know it off the top of my head. Hold on. Let me grab the bottle. So the 10.1 comes in at 139.6.
Right.
Most Isla whiskeys, if you're talking about like Bowmore through Lafroig quarter cask, you're looking somewhere in the 40 to like
Right.
55, 60 range on the high end
Right.
of those ones. So this obliterates those.
Sorry, what was the 10.1?
So the 10.1 is 139.6.
So the 6.1 that I've got is 167.
Yeah.
So it's even higher.
And I think there was one in the range that broke 300. It got to I think it was 304, and I don't know if it was the 7 or if it was the 5, but it was one that I didn't try it, but yeah,
Right.
they're just really pushing the envelope. They've pulled it back down a little bit now. I think they've kind of found their sweet spot where you get a very like long and complex dram when you take a sip of this.
Yeah, I mean, like, smelling, you can probably see I'm kind of a psycho when I nose whiskey that like not everybody can. I wouldn't recommend people smell this whiskey how you just saw me do it. And for those listening in the audio version, I basically just bury my nose into my glass and smell. Again, I'm a friggin' nutbag.
When it comes to Isla, yeah.
About anything, to be honest with you, like I almost enjoy the experience of nosing and smelling whiskeys more than tasting them.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I find like there's whiskeys out there. This is one of them that like I could literally I'll nose whiskey for 10, 20 minutes before I even sip it.
yeah.
Which again, some people will probably think that I'm an absolute crazy person, but that's just me.
Hey, there's no wrong way to enjoy whiskey.
That's true. That's our whole thing. So yeah. So again, I wouldn't really recommend that if it's your first experience with an Octomore, you just kind of bury your face into it and take it.
No, you're gonna burn the inside of your nose off.
Burn your nose pretty bad. But for me, it's not just peat that you get on these.
No,
there's like fruits in it as well, and like some like spices and stuff. Like on the 6.1, like I'm getting some like kind of vanilla sugary caramelly stuff, but also some like pear and apple, which is really
interesting.
Really interesting that you get.
And it comes in waves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like the initial thing you first smell, you're just like, shit, that's just a punch in the face with peat.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of go back in, you're like, well, there's a little bit more there. There's some sweetness to it. There's some sugars, and then there's this like fruit pearish, apple-y kind of back endy thing to the nose.
Yeah.
It's not really citrusy. Like I'm not really getting pineapples or anything like that, melon stuff.
No, there's none of that, like sort of the tropical fruits.
Yeah, not
that
stuff.
Like that's not there, but yeah, it's
I need to taste this though. You can.
Yeah, you go. I'm gonna jump over to the comic side of this.
Yeah.
And just talk about like what, like in the huge history of Star Wars comics, what did we decide to go with? So the theme that we were going here is like overpowering. So we wanted something where Vader was really on, like, really going and showing his strength and his just like indomitable will to overcome. So we decided to
almost feel like I just got force choked by Vader because I just took a sip. For those just listening, people watching, you probably saw it on my face as you were talking about power and stuff like that. But like, holy shit!
Yeah,
this is strong whiskey.
It's so nice.
It's really nice.
That one's what, 62. I mean, it's full cask strength. The 6.1 is.
Hang on.
You bring that up. The 15 or the 11.1 is 59.4.
Yikes.
So yeah, it's a lot.
57.
57. Okay, yeah. So they're both really high. Yeah. And again, like you didn't put water in yours.
No.
Right. No. Yeah. So, so what we decided to pair this with was actually a dark horse, which is now one of the legends stories of Star Wars. It's Star Wars Tales, number 9, which is Vader versus Maul, the brawl to settle it all. So I love this book. Darth Maul, one of the most underused Sith in the main like movies, an amazing run in the animated series, and in comic books he's got several really cool arcs.
Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan out there, I mean, I think most hardcore Star Wars fans have watched Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that. If you haven't though, and you like, if you're just like a Star Wars fan, you're like, I've watched the movies, I love the movies and stuff, but you haven't really gone in, like, you gotta watch Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah,
even if it's just for Darth Maul. You can even go and find, because of Disney Plus and the streaming services where everything's there, you can go find I know people have done like the ultimate Darth Maul
edit
episodes, right, or something like that, and you can just go and find all of the episodes that Darth Maul is in. But like, yeah, he got punked pretty hard in the movies, but that Clone Wars show,
so good.
And he comes back in Rebels, and it's
amazing,
bonkers. It's so good.
So in this story, Vader comes to a planet a lot like Mustafar, actually. It's like smoldering volcanic planet. He shows up in the Imperial shuttle that we're all familiar with, and what he thinks he's going to find is a rebel stopover where they've got the plans to the first Death Star. So he shows up with a squadron of stormtroopers. He says, all right, you guys all stay here and secure the landing spot. He takes 2 with him, and he goes off to investigate these ruins. And while they're sort of descending down into these ruins, his two stormtroopers get force choked, and they turn to him and they say, "Why, Lord Vader? Why?" And he's like, "It wasn't me." And these three Sith acolytes show up, much like the ones that you see on Exegol in The Rise of Skywalker. You know, just like these hooded, cloaked, pale-skinned Sith.
Good job pulling Exegol out.
Hey, come on
the fly
now.
like that. Good job.
Come on now. And they say that Vader is not a worthy apprentice to Emperor Palpatine, and that there's too much light in him. He was, trained by a Jedi.
He's still a Jedi himself.
Yeah,
he's
still
Sith.
Yeah, he's still a Jedi. And Vader's, like, does the Emperor know that you're doing this? And, they're like, no. He's like, you've sealed your own doom. And he goes to strike them down with the old red. And this other red lightsaber shoots out and blocks it. And it's Darth Maul. And they have, of course, because the Sith love to do this, as we've now seen in movies and even hinted at in The Mandalorian, that with all the cloning technology that we see throughout all of Star Wars, really, but specifically with bringing Sith back from the dead and being able to have their force ghost, like, put into a new body, they have resurrected Darth Maul. And what they have done is they said, Vader is not of the bloodline of Bane. So again, deep cut for you Star Wars geeks out there. Darth Bane, going way, way back.
Is it like Old Republic? Like Revan and all those dudes?
You're going way back. Now, it's not that, I don't think it's as far back as, it might be the Revan timeline.
Okay.
So he's like, you're not
nerds mad by not knowing.
I know, like, I'm calling myself an ultimate Star Wars geek, and I'm not exactly sure what. Anyways, whatever. There's only like 40,000 years of Star Wars history to keep up on, right? So they say Maul should have been the heir apparent to Palpatine, so they're pitting Maul against Vader, and the entire time Maul is like owning Vader's ass.
He whoops his ass.
Like, and he only refers to him as like Jedi.
Yeah. He's talking
he calls him Jedi the whole thing. He's like, follow me if you can. It's like, the artwork's incredible. So the penciler for this is Rick Leonardi.
It's straight Last Dance Jordan.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just coming back after the 1 year off, and it's just like, and I took offense to that. Palpatine took a new apprentice. I took offense to that.
I took offense to that.
Hauling ass on him.
Yeah. So like, Vader's falling down. He busts up his chest piece, so like it's all sparking, and Maul keeps going back to the Sith code, and it's like, through suffering I find power. Oh gosh, I really should have known that off the top of my head. Through hate, anger, suffering, all the rest of it.
It's funny to me how you were giving yourself shit for not being a super Star Wars nerd, and then you just dropped the Sith code.
But it's not in the right order, right? Anyways, Maul's big thing is he hates with every part of his being. He's like, you're more machine than man, which is a great throwback in the writing to the Obi-Wan quote. And he goes, how can a machine hate? And so that's his big thing, is like, a Sith has to be able to hate, and I hate with all of my being. And he's just owning them for about, I don't know, the majority of the book. And it's a 64-page comic, and it is basically like a long fight scene, and it's action-packed, and it's an amazing read. And of course, I mean, we all know Vader's going to come out of this triumphant. And so he's got, his chest plate sparking. He breaks Darth Maul's saber, much like Obi-Wan does. Like smashed in half, but he's got both working. So now he's dual wielding his lightsabers. And he actually like knocks Vader down, disarms him. He punches him across his face. So now his mask is sort of messed up too. And he says, this is why you failed, Jedi. Like, you don't know anguish, you don't know hate. And there's like a rumbling because the volcano and the lava that they've been jumping over top of is about to erupt. And Vader, of course, gets his lightsaber right as Maul's about to do the killing strike. And he actually he ignites his saber through his own stomach to then impale Maul behind him.
It's a pretty gangster move.
it's so cool. Like the art on that is so amazing with the different boxes as it goes across. And Maul says, how could you defeat me? What do you hate that brings you this much power? And Vader says, myself.
Ooh.
And that's where he gets his hate and his power from. And I was just like,
great
oh,
line.
that's great line.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the overpowering of Vader, like willing to go to whatever length it is to be the strongest. And yeah, just
which is much similar to what Bruichladdich, which by the way, that's the first time in this podcast that we've said the distillery,
the actual distillery.
Whoops. Shout outs to Bruichladdich.
For giving this gem.
Bruichladdich, if you would like. But yeah, much like them, with like going the extra mile, doing what needs to be done to have the strongest be the strongest out there. Yeah, because hot shit, I love Octomore, man.
Yeah, so I after my long spiel, I just took my first sip. It's just a whole mouth experience.
It like, really is.
We've talked about mouthfeel before.
Yeah.
This one, you get it on the tongue. It's a super long finish that you get going all the way down. It brings, I mean, obviously it's a full cask strength, and so you feel it going down, but you get it in the cheeks. It like saturates right in, sits down on the tongue, gives you a lot of that flavor. It's great.
It's not like an everyday dram, by any means.
I mean,
these are special drinks.
I love it, but I can't, you're not going to drink this all the time. And again, like, especially for the price point that this one's coming in on. Like, so the 10.1 was 220 at the LCBO?
I think it was 225 at the LCBO. Okay. We are in Ontario, Canada. So the 10.1, I believe, was 225.
Yeah. So I got mine from Craft Cellars, which is out in Calgary in Alberta. Slightly different structure for pricing, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think I got mine for I think it was just under 200.
Yeah.
And then there was like shipping and tax. So, I mean, it came out to close to the same price, but I could get it. And that's why we did that.
Yeah.
So
the LCBO does have the 11.1 listed on their site. They're sold out completely.
Okay.
But they had it for 250.
Okay. Yeah.
So
like all things, it's going up.
Yeah. Man, some of these whiskeys I'm finding are starting to get a little cost prohibitive, which is super frustrating.
Yeah. And I mean, especially for having something that you can like just have in yourself, like to drink. Like, I mean, we're both really fortunate that our dad is like a super whiskey guy. And so like we do get a lot of stuff either like through him or as gifts. And like, I mean, every birthday, Christmas, what have you, we're giving each other bottles just as like, that's just what we do. Right. So like we've got a fairly nice collection, but to go out and get something like this, if it wasn't a special occasion, like, so for me, the 11.1 was my 40th birthday gift to myself.
Right.
So that's why I have a bottle of it, because I was like, look, I'm out of the other one. This is my treat for myself for becoming, well, as my kids would say, old now.
No, you're old as fuck, man.
Yeah, no, I know. It's older brother syndrome.
Straight up old as hell. Old as all hell.
So
no, that's totally true. We're very fortunate, and obviously not everybody can just go out and be buying bottles and all that stuff. Like my birthday gift this year from you guys was this Balwinnie Week of Peat, which I haven't even cracked yet, because I'm going to do a neck pour sessions video for it. And I just haven't, there's been other stuff.
Yeah.
and again, this is not complaining, because I'm well aware that is quite the privilege to have, as, I have too much whiskey to drink. But it's work. So
yeah,
but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the cost of these Octomores is pretty intense. Much like the taste, but I mean, it's super good. As a celebration thing, I think if you're like an Isla fan, if you've never had an Octomore before and you've got the opportunity to try it at a bar, or if there's like a whiskey shop near you or a whiskey, if you see someone doing tastings, because there's a lot of people doing like virtual tasting stuff now. If you have the opportunity to try it and you like peaty stuff, it is an experience that I think every whiskey drinker should have.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of people out there I've seen online who really dunk on Bruichladdich, and especially for the Octomore line, mostly because of the price. They mostly say like, oh, it's kind of gimmicky. Like let's just cram a bunch of peat in it. It's a 5-year whiskey, so they have to hide how not great it is by just over peating it. But I completely disagree with those people myself. I really, really like the run, and I think all of the additions that I've had have been pretty great. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since I've had that.
Wow.
Oh, damn it. Since trying the 11-1 and 11-3, but this, I'm kind of thinking I like this 6-1 better. Yeah. To be honest.
Yeah, I think the 6-1 had a little bit more going, on. And not to take anything away from the 11.1, because like you said, I've been a big fan of all the different ones that I've had really the privilege of being able to try. And I mean, Bruichladdich hasn't become one of the like world's largest producers of Islay whiskey for doing things poorly. No. Like, I get that sometimes there's like, some fad whiskey that comes out that everyone sort of jumps on the bandwagon for. Like, I found that with beer, where everyone was trying to make everything hoppier.
Yeah.
Like, and it just for me, it just like went out of, like, it lost control and just went too far.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like that happened with Octomore. Like, I know distilleries have started making things, like doing their own versions, like something like this, with trying to get more peat just to experiment with that. And I mean, it really does come down to a science and like what these master distillers are trying to do. And I'm all for the experimentation.
Heck yeah.
Like, if you don't like this, don't drink it. Like,
more for
I
me.
would never, absolutely. Like, I would never tell someone like, no, you have to like this. Like, look, if you don't like peat, you're not going to like this. I don't spend the money. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of things like Ardbeg, if you really like the Lafroig, like specifically the higher alcohol.
If you're getting into the Carchus series, which we've got, I think next week's neck pour session episode is this year's Carchus, which is like a port and wine cask, which I recorded a while ago. And that's like super strong, really peaty. I mean, if you liking that stuff, especially the like stronger alcohol stuff, then Octomore is great.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
Like, we so in the virtual tasting that we did with our club, where we featured this, there was a couple people, well, I mean, a lot of people had never tried this. So this was sort of it was the last dram of the night. If you're ever doing a flight and this is here, drink this last. I can't think of anything else that I've tried that I would drink before this in a flight. Like, I think this would have to be last. Just for your taste buds. Like, your palate is obliterated after this.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll finish the story first, and then we'll talk about the stupid dumb flight tasting that we did with our dad the other night.
Anyways, so there's a couple of people, like it was an Islay one, so we had a few different things, and then we got to this and we sort of explained the story, and people were starting to sniff, and we've got like 18, 20 people up on our Zoom screen on the computer, and a few of the people are just like, they've got their thing on mute and they're laughing on the screen. And then we told everyone to go out and get some chocolate. Actually, no, we didn't tell them to go get it. We sent it with them.
We included it.
So we had a piece of dark chocolate, which, if you haven't done, the next time you drink something that's heavily peated, get some dark chocolate and then take a sip, then take a bite, and then go back. And one person just like burst out laughing. And it was my favorite experience we've had on one of our virtual tastings, because he was just beside himself as to how good it was and how much it actually changed the flavor profile of the Octomore.
It's really cool. So that's like such a cool thing to do. What was our lineup on that Islay night? Was it Talisker? Did we start there, even though it's not an Islay? I think we started Talisker.
So we did Talisker Storm.
Storm, Colila, the Bunahaben Teutsch, and a
that's right, the Teutsch and a and then this.
And then this. Which is a pretty cool one. But yeah, talking about like you don't want to mix this with other things. The other night we did a tasting with Whiskey Dad and Whiskey Rad, his buddy Rad,
Hmm.
and we went Lefroy Lore
Yep.
into the Lefroy Carchus into the Octomore 11.1 and finished with the Octomore 11.3,
Yeah.
which was like I mean,
Ludicrous.
it's a ludicrous
Amazing.
lineup. It was
I mean,
very,
it was
very good.
amazing. Yeah, but that's so much peat.
So much peat. And I really kind of felt at the end like I can't taste anything. All I'm tasting is campfire at this point and peat
Yeah.
smoke.
Yeah.
But it was very,
Yep.
very good. So,
Yeah.
and again, super fortunate to be able to
Oh yeah.
do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
So
we
like
want to
I
talk
wanted
about,
to talk about well, I wanted to talk a bit more about Vader and
yeah,
just some of the other like
I'll talk Vader all
awesome
night.
Vader stories that are out there.
Oh, can I give
So
you my favorite one?
yeah, yeah.
My favorite. So there's like a bunch of like newer comics that have been really, really good with Vader,
Hmm.
but like they did like a 6-issue Vader Down.
Yeah, that crossover.
The crossover. It was one of those like
Hmm.
events where it was like this main Star Wars book and then a Darth Vader book and then like I think it was like
Then there was then there
Princess
was
Leia or something like that. There was like all these tie-ins of their
yeah,
Star Wars comic books, but they did this like 6-issue, which I think you can get in a trade now.
you
They
can.
released the Vader Down as a trade.
Yes, they did.
Oh, you've got it.
Yeah, there it is.
It's
Um,
basically it's like his TIE fighter gets shot down, and then like all of the Rebel Alliance is like, oh,
just coming down on him.
Vader's down. Like, oh, Vader's ship went down. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
And he just
So yeah, Vader down
hauls
1,
ass.
Darth Vader 13 to 15, and then Star Wars 13 and 14
Right.
is what it collects. Yeah. It's awesome.
It's been a couple of years since I've read it, but I remember grabbing issue 1 from the comic shop of Vader Down and reading it, being
Yeah.
like, this is really cool. And then
Yeah.
and then realizing like, oh, it's an event. Okay, cool. Well, I'm not reading any other Star Wars books right now, but I had to go and like
Yeah, find
get them every week. I was
Yeah.
getting them because that was such a fun one. What about you?
So there was another one where it was Vader and the Ninth Assassin. So there have been like 8 other assassins that have like tried to go out to kill Vader. And so this is the story of the 9th assassin who has been tracking him, and they end up on a planet, and there's this awesome like cat and mouse. There's some monsters that are, like pop up that he also has to deal with while he's getting chased.
Dig it.
So that one's really cool. There's one called Vader and the Lost Command, where Vader's actually demoted by the Emperor for a failure, and he's like put underneath an Imperial admiral, like I don't like just whoever's like I think maybe an admiral, like not like Thrawn, but someone like that who's in charge of like a super star destroyer, and the Emperor's like, you report to him now, and it's it doesn't end well for that guy. Let's just say
No.
that. So there's a little bit of Vader like trying to restrain himself to do what the Emperor wants, and then at the same time he's like, F this guy.
Oh man,
I'm gonna do me.
It would be so good if he was put on a Star Destroyer with Hux from the new trilogy.
Yeah.
That was such a hilarious character.
Yeah. So, there's a bunch of other like really cool ones, and he's got like even just the most recent like Vader centric arcs. Like I'm doing the most recent one, which is just coming into. There's gonna be another cross-in event with it's like a bounty hunter series, which is right around when Han is getting into carbonite.
Oh, okay.
So and like there's a tie in there as well.
Nice.
So that's been pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, he's the best villain ever.
Yeah, probably, right? Like
He's got the most iconic entrance. Like, dude knows how to come into a room. Although I guess even now in like with
Rogue One is the best
Rogue
Vader
One,
moment.
So good.
Yeah, and the moment I'm talking about is the don't choke on your ambitions. That was the best Vader moment of all time.
Yeah, right.
Some of the worst script writing I think I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Um,
but yeah,
but no,
when he
the
shows
end
up
of
at
Rogue
the end,
One's
it's just that. So
fucking
that was
bananas.
incredible, and then how that led into the start of A New Hope, where like he just
Yeah.
walks in and anyways, so great.
Yeah. Yeah, Vader rules. You know what? He probably is the best bad guy, best villain of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
We usually do little lists at the end of the episodes, and we had thought about like, do we talk about best villain of all time? But like, well, no, because it's not really a competition.
yeah. When it ends with Vader,
So yeah, we
you
already
know,
know who's gonna win. But we do want to talk about other things. We do want to come up with another
yeah.
fun list that you had the idea of.
Well, I thought of so like because this book is basically just about this one duel between the two of them, I thought like, okay, so what are the other best duels that exist? And at first I was thinking like, okay, like just what are the other best ones in Star Wars?
Yeah, because that's a good list we
But
could do.
yeah, but I was like, well, why limit it to just that? And then you had a really good point. Is like, okay, is a duel just 1v1?
Yeah, what constitutes
Because
a duel? Because the best one in Star Wars is what they call the Duel of the Fates, which is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Maul. So
yeah,
that's not really a duel technically. I mean, it's like at the end it ends with duels, but anyways,
yeah.
are we going
So
just with that? Because so I've got a couple of honorable mentions that I want to bring up.
yeah. All right. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, like a couple, like, do you count the Rocky movies? Like, would that be a duel,
So I
or is
guess
that just a fight?
yeah, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of like more sword play.
Okay,
So like with weapons,
got it.
with I
All right.
mean, doesn't have to be a lightsaber, but that's what I was thinking because I also thought of Frank Dukes and Chung Li, which is the second
So
time we've mentioned Bloodsport.
yeah, because I had that in my notes next. I was like, if
Okay.
we're counting Rocky, then we have to count Bloodsport, and then I'm like, can we count Mortal Kombat?
And then we can count Johnny Cage and Scorpion.
Because Johnny Cage Scorpion is amazing, and then the Liu Kang Sub Zero. But I would also put Scorpion and Sub Zero from the new movie. Also, side note, for those who just watch us on YouTube, we did an audio only version where we reviewed the new Mortal Kombat movie. If you haven't listened to that, you can go and check that out in our podcast feed. Go and do that. But some other good ones. So my notes are hilarious because my wife and I were just talking about this. So if we can count Duel of the Fates, I mean, do 2v1s. One that we thought was really great is Hobbs and Shaw versus Brixton Lore at the end of Hobbs and Shaw against Idris Elba.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
Because that fight. Think of that.
Because that fight kicked ass.
Oh,
very good one.
So, all right. So we didn't talk about this, but that just got me thinking. We can then do Hobbs versus Dom at the end of
five, six.
Because they've got weapons. Because he's got a giant ass wrench, and one's got a wrench and one's got a pipe or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the edit where those both get turned into lightsabers, go find that on YouTube because that's really funny.
That's pretty good. So those ones are good.
Yeah.
And then I've got some. So there's one. Can we count Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Which
that kitchen scene.
Which my note here is sex fight. Because I mean, it's hands down the best fight that turns into sex.
I think so. Yeah.
So it's the best sex fight ever.
Now, I mean, I'm not sure how deep that list is.
It's probably not that big of a list.
But yeah, that was a really cool scene.
But like that's an incredible, because I was trying to think like, are there any cool gunfight duels? And like, there's probably some old Western shit that was really cool, some Clint Eastwoody stuff, but like the thing is like there's a lot of awesome action movies, but like there's not a lot of gunfight duels.
Yeah.
Really. But I thought that was a good one.
There's some cool stuff in Wanted, where they're like bending the bullets to like hit each other. But again, it's not really dueling,
right? Because it's, because we were like, there's got to be a John Wick something, but like that's John Wick against 1,000 people. So it's not really a duel.
Him against Common.
Him against Common is probably a good one.
Badass.
And there's a lot of them that are like short and really sweet. Like I almost an honorable mention, like a sub honorable mention, and this is probably just a nostalgia thing for me, is Steven Seagal and Tommy Lee Jones at the end of Under Siege, the knife
Oh,
fight.
the knife fight. Oh, that is a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
It could just be that I loved that movie as a kid, which I mean, a movie I shouldn't have watched as a kid.
That's fine.
But
we watched the crap out of that movie.
Uh-huh. So I've got two more, and then I've got like two real ones.
Okay.
Peter Griffin versus the Giant Chicken. All iterations.
Just every time it happens.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Austin Powers versus Mini-Me.
Also very, very funny.
We were just like, there was like a weekend where we were like, we just want to watch something dumb. And I'm like, I haven't watched the Austin Powers movies in a long time. So we watched like the entire trilogy in a weekend.
Nice.
Hot damn, those movies are still
very
funny.
Still hilarious.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Austin Powers versus Mini-Me is a very, very funny one.
Nice.
What about you? You got a list? I just talked a lot.
No. So I went the other way, and I immediately was thinking sword fights. So
I've got one that's my top one, which you probably have as a top one as well.
Probably. Okay. So the first one that I thought of was the Aragorn versus the Orc at the end of Fellowship of the Rings.
It's a good one.
Like that sword fight, which again, it's like short but brutal.
Yeah.
And really cool. You know, like you get the Orc pulling the sword through him.
Yeah, the end of it
to get closer, and
the shield throw that pins him to the tree. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was really good. I had the Man in Black versus Inigo Montoya on the mountaintop.
So that's
after the Wailing Wall, or the Cliffs of Insanity.
Yeah.
So like that one, because I love the I am not left-handed, and like that whole reveal, like that's a lot of fun.
That is the best duel of all time. Anybody can fight. I don't care. That's my number one of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
It's so great.
It tells a story. It's suspenseful. It's got humor. Like it's like perfect storytelling with sword fighting. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's so great.
Yeah. That's hands down my number one.
Yeah. So there was that. I mean, in the Star Wars universe, like Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith is fantastic. Really liked that. A couple honorable mentions.
You're the chosen one.
I hate you.
So many memes.
All the memes. Yeah. There was some really cool swordplay in The Witcher. Now there wasn't.
I haven't watched that yet.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I mean, you could say twice. It's not going to change it. I mean, I saw you say that you hadn't watched it.
Yeah.
Anyways, like Henry Cavill was awesome as Geralt, and like I actually watched a little docuseries on his like sword training about it, which was like, it was really cool. But anyways,
nice.
But there's no like definitive like moment, like, you know, he's a monster hunter and there's some awesome sword play.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's like, those were my like sort of my two. Like Blade, awesome with the sword, like cutting through the vampires.
That's not like dueling though, right?
But it's not dueling, and that's the thing. So I'm sure there are quite a few that, you know, we're missing and haven't.
I mean, like Star Wars, there's a ton that we could mention, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
I mean, Yoda versus Dooku is super fun.
Yeah.
That movie is incredibly problematic.
Not that scene though.
But that scene kicks a lot of ass. Yeah, I mean, like Rey, Kylo Ren, there's some good ones. Like there's a bunch of cool ones. I mean, if we would get into the animated series,
oh god,
there's like a shit ton of like really awesome.
Yeah,
like it's not really dueling, but it's like Ezra and oh my god, I can't believe I'm gonna forget his name. The guy that Freddie Prinze Jr. played. Ezra Bridger's master.
Oh.
Sorry, nerds.
Yep. Nope, blanking.
It's gone.
Sorry.
Against the Acolytes, I think they were called. Like that should, all of those episodes.
Those are great.
Were not Acolytes.
The sisters. The seven sisters.
No, it's the fuck.
This go look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
Because I got a couple others. The Mountain versus the Red Viper in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
Is every time I rewatch that scene, I'm like, just kill him. Don't step so close. don't be an idiot. You've got them. And so love that. And then I know a lot of people like shit on Troy. I love that movie. And the Achilles versus Hector fight is great. So those are the other two that I had on my list.
Kanan Jarrus.
Thank you.
Kanan.
Thank you.
Kanan. Yeah, and they weren't the Inquisitors. God, there we go. Kanan versus the Grand Inquisitor. The Inquisitors in Rebels. Rebels has some great ones. So we're gonna do a full Game of Thrones thing because again, I pointed out we just got the entire Game of Thrones whiskey run from our dad because he collected all of them, so he gave us samples. So we're gonna do a couple of like bonus episode-y stuff where we like talk Game of Thrones. It sucks that I'm not gonna talk long about this because we'll get into it in full detail. It sucks that people hated that last season so much because I really feel like the entire property has really fallen out of favor with folks.
I know.
Like it's like the last 2 episodes, and I know people had problems with the whole season. We talked about this with Mortal Kombat in the Mortal Kombat podcast, where it's like, I really try and like, I know how hard it is to make like it's super hard to make a show or a movie. Yeah. And it's not like they were purposely trying to make something bad or shitty. So for me, we'll get into some more detail. For me, Game of Thrones ended fine. How they got there may have been a little weird, but like I didn't come out of Game of Thrones as pissed off as what seems like everybody on the planet was. So,
like,
hey, technical glitch, everybody. Frozen internet connection. Alex, you were saying?
Yeah, so I think the end of Game of Thrones ended at the way it was always going to end. I think it felt a little rushed, but I don't like fundamentally disagree with the character choices that were made.
Right.
And again, and even it, like the Hound versus the Mountain in one of the final episodes, that battle up the staircase.
Oh, see, that was great.
Was incredible.
Yeah.
And it had incredible moments.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to talk more about it. We will
dive deep into that later.
Yes. But the Mountain versus the Red Viper, to this day, my wife, that traumatized my wife forever. Anytime anything like that comes up, she just shivers because the end of that is so brutal.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, whoever did the sound design at the end of that duel is both like such an asshole, but like a fucking genius, because that's what stuck with me was the sound.
Yeah.
The sound of that fight was just...
It was really something.
Like Mortal Kombat fatality level gross.
Yeah.
But good for them. You're very good at your job.
They nailed it.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah. But yeah, for me, the best duel of all time is Princess Bride.
Yeah.
I will fight anybody. And just for the sake of putting it out there, Dumbledore and Voldemort had a great duel. And so did Harry and Voldemort. Suck it, Orbacks. Yeah. Harry Potter's in this podcast.
I wasn't going to say anything specifically because of that comment, but yeah. In which one? Started Deathly Hallows? The Ministry of Magic? Was that the Voldemort Dumbledore one, or was that 5?
That's the end of Order of the Phoenix.
End of 5. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Time freezes, the sand. Yeah. All great.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man. This is fun. Yeah. I still have a little bit of Octomore left. So
so do I. So like,
kill this.
Tell me.
Oh, we got to grade
What
these.
are your? No, yeah, that too. But I was gonna say, like, take another sip and just take me through, like, what are you getting on the finish of this? As like, just
finish
as you
the podcast by talking about the finish of the whiskey.
Yeah, because it's it develops a bit as you get down to the bottom of the glass and you've got it in your mouth for a bit.
Sorry for the awkward silence.
Yeah, as we both drink
at the
on
same
mic.
Time. Yeah. So the finish of these whiskeys is just so long. Like, it just doesn't stop, which is the craziest part about, and this is one of the things that I really like about cask strength whiskey as a whole. Like, I'm a huge fan of, like, give me a whiskey that's 50% and up, and I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because of the long finishes that you get.
Yeah.
On them. So this one, it's like, you obviously get the peat, right? And you just get this like warmth. And and like I talked about like earlier, there is like those like fruit notes and stuff, but like the finish on the 6.1 is like there's some like vanilla sugary sweetness that creeps in at the end, but it's
Yeah.
just like a warm, spicy, delicious. Like it's smoky, but it's such a
Smoky.
different. It's not a peat smoke that you're used to.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's the
because
only
it's
way that
only
I can describe it.
yeah. Like I was gonna say, like for a lot of the peated, like heavily peated stuff, it's a bit older. So for me, what you get with this one being only 5 years, you get some of that hot spiciness from the
Yeah.
oak that hasn't mellowed out yet from the aging process. So
Right.
it's long, it's smoky, but it's still a little spicy,
Yeah.
and which actually gives it more of a complex feel. Um, as the finish continues down and really just like warms you to the core.
Uh huh.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's great.
And makes you
With that,
feel real good.
it sure does. Let's
Yeah.
move on to our Canadian Whiskey Geek CWG gradings of these two
Let's
things, and then our pairing grade.
rate these suckers and get out of here.
Yeah. So, comic first.
Sure.
Okay. Um, I'm a big fan. Obviously, I mean, I'm wearing a Yoda shirt.
Nerd.
Yeah, I picked this specific variant cover that I've got. Picked it up at the Ottawa Comic Con. I have read it multiple times. These are two of my favorite characters in geekdom. So I'm coming in at an 8.5 for the book
Nice.
because I really like the story. I like the theme of the hatred and anger and drawing power from that. And just, so yeah, 8.5 for me.
Nice. I only read it once. It was a while ago. But yeah, I mean the story's dope. Anytime you're gonna put two Sith Lords together in a fight is great. Anytime you get a book that's just a giant duel is also great. Um, I think if I was to read it again, I would probably put it at an 8.5, but I'm going to go on a solid 8. Obviously, it didn't catch me to the point where I ran out and bought it.
Yeah.
But that's me. I think
Yeah.
when I read this too, I was in the middle of reading. I went through this like big kick of like, I'm reading Dark Arc and Unholy Grail, and I went kind of away from the Star Wars comic books.
Yeah.
When I read this one like again a while ago when you're working on the article for this, but I'm gonna give it an 8. It's a solid book. I definitely want to read it again.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go after hearing you talk about it again and remembering. I'm probably gonna go see if I can pick it up.
Yeah. Nice. Why don't you go first with the whiskey here?
It's really hard to put this below a 9.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just gonna be
As
real
two
and just be
big
quick.
fans of Isla, it's tough.
It's really tough. I can't go 10 on it because that's saved for very special stuff. But I honestly, giving this the thought of giving an Octomore an 8.5 seems sacrilegious for some reason. So 9.
9?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of my favorite whiskeys, period.
Mm.
So, like, and I've had the privilege of trying a good variety, all the different regions across the world. And when I was asked by one of my buddies if I could have anything in my glass right now, what would it be? I said Octomore. Now that could have been, it was in the winter, it could have just been the mood I was in, but that's what I said at the time. So I'm gonna go to the quarter grading, which we haven't done yet. I'm going for a 9.25. And the only thing that's not putting this at a 9.5 for me is that increasing price point. It's $250. Yeah. So that's how, I mean, but again, I'm a huge fan of Isla. I love smoke. I put liquid smoke into everything I can squeeze it into when I'm cooking. That's just my palate. I love this stuff. So it would be a 9.5 for me if it wasn't that price point. So I'm going to put it down to a 9.25 just because I like it a bit more than a 9. And because it's our podcast and I can score it whatever I want.
Whatever you want. Yeah, for me, the price is...
It's just a lot.
One is because, like, I was
at
just
220.
Thinking,
what else can you get for 250?
Well, I mean, like, for under that, you can get Buna 18, which is my...
Yeah.
Bunnahabhain 18. That would... I was thinking when you were talking, I was like, what would be my answer if someone says if you can have anything in your glass? I mean, if I could say the Buna 46 or the Deanston 40, which I've had the privilege of tasting both of those, I would probably... Like, the Deanston 40-year-old was an insane whiskey that I got to try.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, of something that's actually gettable, I would probably say Bunnahabhain 18 would be my, like, what would you put in your glass?
Yeah. And that's less than this.
The fact that when that's available, it's just under $200 or right around $200. It's $50 less than this.
Yeah.
Like that's,
and I mean, they're very different whiskeys.
100% different experience. Right. And like the experience, the first time I tried the 10.1, the Octomore 10.1, like I like got all the whiskeys for the tasting and I was like, okay, I want to like make sure that like the order that we have them makes sense. And we were like building, like we knew we were putting the Octomore last, but I was like, I need to try this. Like, you'd had like 2 bottles of it. Like I knew all these people who had had it and I was like, I've never tried it. I need to just try like this tiniest little bit. And I remember the first time I sipped it, I was just like, what the hell? Like,
what is this? What is this liquid going into my mouth?
Like, how did they do that? Like, it was just, it's a mind-bending experience. Yeah. So again, I can't put it below a 9, but a 9.25, even a 9.5. So if you give it a 9.5, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah. So pairing.
Yeah.
I'll just say 9.
Yeah.
It's a 9 for me.
Yeah.
It's Vader's awesome.
It's
Octomore's
kind of
awesome.
Yeah.
They both just go really well together. It's the overpowering nature. It's brute force. There is that, like, if you get deep into the Star Wars lore, there's that underlying gentleness in Vader.
Yep.
That like only comes out sometimes. Like in some of the newer comics, he's having flashbacks with Padme. And anyways, so like it's kind of like the underlying sweetness in the Octomore that you can pick up. I mean, it's not always on your first dram of this because it is like it's overpowering, and if you're not used to it, that's all you're going to get. But if you can get past that, there is some subtlety to it as well. So it's a straight up 9 for me.
Yeah, I agree for all of those reasons.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just I can say the exact same things that you just said, but it's true.
But sweet,
it's pretty great. Well, man, this was fun.
Yeah.
As always, make sure you are going to our website, thewhiskeygeeks.com. Look at that. It just showed up underneath.
Amazing. And it shows right there that there's an E in whiskey.
Yes. And for those listening to the podcast, check the podcast description because all of our links are there. Too. But you wrote a really fantastic article about the Octomore and this book, so you can go and check that out. You'll get some different information than you got tonight as well. You can follow us on Instagram at The Whisky Geeks. It's there as well. We do try and post pretty regularly, but come join the crew. It's fun. We like to talk to people. Comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends.
Let us know what your favorite Star Wars like Vader moment is. What was your favorite comic that had him in that? I could literally talk Star Wars, I mean, until the internet ran out. So
which probably won't happen anytime soon. So
not gonna happen.
Come hang out with us. It's a fun time. Follow us on everything. We've got an email address as well if you want to really get into it email wise. It's thewhiskeygeeks@gmail.com. So you can do that. And this is really great. Make sure you're coming back. Sorry, one last plug for those just listening to this. If this is your first time with us, we also do 2 episodes a week. So we do Short Box, and which is a comic. So every week we do a comic book review. And then on Fridays, we alternate between these full, long, hilarious podcasts where we talk forever. And then a shorter one where we review whiskeys. So we've got whiskey reviews. We've got comic book reviews. We got lots of stuff. So come along, folks. Please
a lot
hit
of fun.
The subscribe button.
Yeah,
please.
Some
we want to make
articles.
we want to make this a job. So please hit subscribe so
Yeah.
we can start monetizing and make money.
Yeah, so we can spend more time doing this.
Exactly.
So there's some fun guides on the website, like intros to whiskey, intros to comics. If you're new to either and you're trying to get in, we want to make this as approachable and easy as it can be. You know, it can be, and we've said this before, but it can be intimidating when you walk into the, you know, your local liquor store and you look and you can't pronounce the names of any of the bottles that you see. So we've got those guides to sort of help you on your way. So if you haven't read those, like, check them out. We'd love to hear from you. The whiskeygeeks@gmail.com. Shoot us an email.
Cool.
And call and response.
Hey.
When you hear those sweet tunes coming in at the intro, go and check him out on Spotify. Buy his stuff. Thank you so much for the use of your song. There's something about your love.
It's playing right now underneath us. It's
it
pretty
is
great. It's a cool
my
song
son's
by
new favorite song.
Yeah, it's a cool song by an even cooler person. So go and check him out. Look at that. His socials just flashed and are in the podcast description as well. So make sure you're giving him some love too. So that's going to be it for this week, this episode of the Whiskey Geeks. We appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. And hey, may the force be with you, sir.
May the force be with you. And remember, Scotch and stories, they belong together.
Cheers.
Cheers.